Today's reading comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 18, verse 9 to 14. To some who were confident of their own righteousness and looked down on everyone else, Jesus told this parable. Two men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed, "God, I thank you that I am not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week and I give 1/10 of all I get." But the tax collector stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven, but beat his breast and said, "God, have mercy on me, a sinner." I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
So another parable addressed to a bunch of arrogant and puffed up Pharisees. And another opportunity, though, to learn and to understand Jesus' approach to life. So we see in this parable that the Pharisees are comparing themselves, or this particular Pharisee is comparing himself to robbers, evildoers, adulterers, and tax collectors. What is it about us humans that we compare ourselves constantly to everyone else? What is it? I mean, it's just ridiculous. One can feel that sense of pride, and thanks for how you read it, Sean, that real sense of pride as he stood there praying, comparing himself to those in the community who didn't quite live just as he did. The Pharisees' way of believing was such that he thought if he obeyed, hello NJ, a strict set of rules, he would be considered righteous. There was very little consideration, it seems, for an alternative way, a way possibly that involved loving others. And so on the surface it would seem that Jesus is calling here in this parable for humility in prayer, humility like it seems the tax collector had. And yes, I think we can glean that from this parable, but I think there's more in this parable. I think there's a bit more. So first off, let's be completely honest. Let's be completely honest as the We Are Church community. We're not a formal institution here. We don't follow any liturgy or specific creeds. And yet, as a group of relatively open-minded believers, it is quite possible for us to be just as puffed up, for us to be just as arrogant in our views concerning other believers and concerning those church structures, just like the Pharisee was. God, that I am not like the conservatives who don't let gays into their church like we do. Thank you, God, that I'm not like the Catholics who spend so much money on pomp and circumstance and buildings and don't really concern themselves with social issues like we do. Thank you, God, that I'm not like the clergy of mainstream churches so involved in the politics and the structures and the political agendas, unlike us. Thank you, God, that I'm not a fundamentalist who worships the Bible, sees it as a rule book, and yet fail to see it as an invitation to relationship, like we do. Friends, we are the Pharisees. We are the Pharisees. Let's not pretend. Having said all of that, what the Pharisee actually did is not actually problematic, because let's face it, that prayer and fasting and tithing are actually all good spiritual practices. I think what is most problematic is what was read at the start of this, verse 9, which reads the following: They were confident of their own righteousness, and they looked down on everyone else. This is a comment on their approach to life. This is a comment on their modus operandi in the world. And this verse suggests that it is their trust, or his trust, the Pharisees' trust in himself, rather than in God, and his contempt for others on the journey of faith that is actually the problem. This parable is not, and we shouldn't read it as anti-Pharisee, but rather as a challenge to all of us who are overly self-reliant in a spiritual sense and judgmental of others and their spirituality. We might also note the humility of the tax collector as a good place to begin. Absolutely, humility, surrender, reliance on grace is a good beginning. And the tax collector, if he remains open and ready for grace, he himself too, though, will have to address how he conducts himself, how he operates in the world, what his modus operandi of behavior is. So neither the Pharisee nor the tax collector's lifestyles are being praised here. So what I am suggesting that this parable is highlighting is that one's lifestyle, one's behavior in the world, one's modus operandi as a believer in day-to-day life is actually what Jesus is concerned about, more than our set of beliefs, as important as those are. This parable challenges our whole approach to belief structure. It challenges our enslavement to belief boundaries. Our freedom to love unconditionally and become the movement that God so deeply desires is confronted in this parable. Now, I'm not suggesting that we get wishy-washy with our beliefs. I'm really not. Don't hear that. An anything goes type of faith is not what God is calling us to. It genuinely is not. But what I am suggesting is that we should be slightly more focused and place a bit more emphasis on our relationships with others and the world, and our calling by Jesus to love than we do. To love should be our overarching reason for existence and behavior. If the Pharisee and the tax collector would have opened themselves up to one another and demonstrated a commitment to love each other, they would have had something to contribute to the other's growth and well-being. And if we, together with our conservative, fundamentalist, Pentecostal brothers and sisters, would demonstrate an attitude of commitment to love, we would both have something to contribute to the other's growth and well-being. Imagine the freedom we could have where our beliefs do not have to be divisive, but rather unite us relationally, like a ligament that binds humanity with creation, one another, and God in equity. The call of Jesus to love one another as I have loved you bridges all things in reality of simple understanding. Beliefs are not found in dogmatic writings, creeds, and doctrinal rites, but in our relationships with others and the world. Listen to this quote by author and pastor Brian McLaren. If Christian faith can be redefined in this way, if our prime contribution to humanity can be shifted from teaching correct beliefs to practicing the way of love, as Jesus taught, then our whole understanding and experience of church could be radically transformed. So if we could shift to practicing the way of love as Jesus taught, the church could be transformed. Friends, we know that love was at the heart of Jesus' teaching. It was also the heartbeat, though, of his day-to-day, of his behavior, of his modus operandi, of how he was in the world. The disciples see a bunch of noisy children. They try to send them away. Jesus welcomes them. The disciples see a crowd of hungry people and try to send them away. Jesus feeds them. The disciples see a woman of another culture and religion and ask Jesus to send her away. Jesus listens and meets her need. A crowd refuses to show common courtesy to a social outcast called Zacchaeus. Jesus sees him in a tree, treats him with dignity and respect. A group of prestigious people at a formal banquet look at a disreputable woman with disdain, but Jesus sees her as someone who is loved, and he forgives her. His love brings him to tears. Story after story, without a single exception, we see that the driving motivation for Jesus' life is love. Left or right, progressive, evangelical, liberal, conservative, we are all called to humility and openness to one another so that we can begin to practice the way of love as Jesus taught us. So here at We Are Church, we are committed to that way of life, to the way of life that follows Jesus' example of love. Yes, we have beliefs. Absolutely we do. And this is actually quite a nice segue into our formal bit of the meeting. Because what I want to do now is I want to hand out to you something that I printed. On the one side of this page is the Apostles' Creed, and the other side of the page is the preamble to the We Are Church Constitution. The Apostles' Creed speaks to our beliefs, and it is included in our Constitution. And then the preamble, which is obviously at the beginning of our Constitution, speaks to the way we are committed as a community to being in the world. So let me just read it to you, and then I think what we're going to do is we're going to read them together. I believe in God the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. I believe in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord, who was conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary. He suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, died, and was buried. He descended to hell. The third day he rose again from the dead, and he ascended to heaven. And he's seated at the right hand of God the Father Almighty. From there he will come to judge the living and the dead. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and life everlasting. So those are our beliefs, broadly speaking. Listen to the preamble to our Constitution. We Are Church is a progressive, inclusive Christian faith community for all of God's people to be safe, seen, and celebrated. And we are committed to following the ways of Jesus, putting love at the center of all we do, deepening our spirituality and faith, servant leadership in the community, diversity in all its expressions, especially LGBTQI inclusion, and societal justice, promoting and protecting the rights of all. So yes, what is this parable speaking to? I believe it's speaking to those two ideas, but in a very specific order.